Good morning, my darlings, and welcome to day 18 of 31 Days of Horror. Well, today's subject matter is quite a difficult one, and I do feel that the book should come with a warning towards the subject matter. It's a Shaun Hutson. It's a classic, and it was published in 1996 when I had just turned 20. And it wasn't until I was 21 in 1997 that I ended up reading the novel. Now, I wrote down that it was Little Brown and Company who did the original first edition, and the one I have is a Warner Books from 1997, and the subject of the book is Stolen Angels, and it should come with a warning because it is a very difficult subject matter. It is child abuse. I'll give you fair warning. If this is something that you find very difficult, please don't read this book and perhaps don't listen to the review I am doing. But I have very carefully and very tastefully done this so as to not do any of the trigger warnings, because difficult subject matter, yes, but a compelling read of the subject matter and excellently written. Shaun Hutson, we all know, he is the godfather of gore. He does splatterpunk. But with this one, he's actually been incredibly sensitive. And that is an unusual take for Shaun to do. And I do believe he handled the subject matter fabulously, absolutely brilliantly. And yes, as far as the story goes, it is excellently written. Would I recommend it? Yes, to people that can handle that level of reading material. It is a delicate subject. It is a very difficult read. It's not as bad as some books that are out there. There are others that are gratuitous when it comes to the writing, and this I feel is not. I feel that this book was well researched, well executed, and well written, given its subject matter. And with that in mind, I will be very careful of the subject matter inside which I read out. Okay, without further ado, we will start with the story. We will meet James Talbot, the detective inspector. He works in London and is investigating an apparent suicide at Euston Station. And Mr. Peter Hyde, after purchasing expensive silk underwear from Knickerbox for his wife Maggie, Hyde then decides to jump in front of a train and commit suicide. Yes. We then move on to a young lady, a young girl, 23 years old, living in Manchester. Her name is Shane Connor, and she's running away and she's packing a bag. Suddenly, she runs into the kitchen of the flat that she's in and grabs a very large carving knife. She feels absolutely exhausted and much older than her years portray. The bag's under her eyes. She's not been sleeping well. And she hopes that she will be able to escape on a bus out of Manchester. There seems to be a car parked outside the flat where she is, and she's worried that the people inside it are watching her, waiting and watching her to see what she does. She manages to get on the bus, and she notices that the car is still there, waiting for her. And when she looks again, when she gets on the bus, the car has gone, and she's desperately wondering whether or not the people that were inside the car were strangers or were they genuinely watching her. I know, very scary stuff, very scary. So that is quite nerve-wracking, especially for Shanine. We find out that Peter was an accountant in the city. The detective sergeant William Rafferty teases the inspector, James Talbot, about his weight. Because he says since he gave up smoking, he's eating 10 bars of chocolate a day, and that won't do him any good either. They are both looking at the mess Peter Hyde has made on the train tracks, and Talbot says someone needs to inform his wife. Peter was 31, a very good job, a very beautiful wife, a blessed life, had everything going for him, no problems at all. Why on earth would he commit suicide? Catherine Reed and Philip Cross. We meet them next. Cathy is a journalist and Philip Cross is a photographer. Can we trust Philip Cross? A bit of a snake. But he is Cathy's lover, so I don't trust him. You'll have to make your own mind up as you're going through the novel. They were having a little cuddle. Yes, lots of cuddles in this book. Some not so very nice at all. When they were contacted by their boss and told to go to Euston Station to take photos of the dead Peter Hyde and to do a report on the apparent suicide. Cathy notices that the detective inspector is there and suddenly thinks to herself, this is no suicide, this was murder. The plot thickens. Now things get really, really weird. Cathy and Phil, careful who you trust, Cathy, careful who you love, Cathy. Cathy and Philip start to investigate and start to believe that the suicides of the three men and the desecration of a number of children's graves and a suspected satanic child abuse ring and the members of school pupils in some way that are being abused is just the mere tip of the iceberg. It really is. There's lots going on here. Very deep, very disturbing satanic child abuse ring involving some very high up people and a pregnant witch. Very confusing. Absolutely very confusing. It is an absolute, I would say it's an absolute blast from start to finish. It is very difficult subject material, I do hasten to add. If you have a weak stomach and you're unable to cope, it definitely won't be a book that you will be able to read. I wouldn't say I enjoyed the book, but as it's a Shaun Hutson, I thought I would read it anyway. And it was, as I said, executed well and written well. Reading it not as a 21-year-old, but as a 48-year-old and a mother, my feelings on this book have changed somewhat. It angers me, this child abuse. It angers me and distresses me, and I really struggled to read this as an adult. But that is because I am now a parent, and I've often said if anyone ever messed with my girls, I would do time. I would, and I know my husband would, because nobody would mess with my girls. And I'm sure I speak for many abuse victims, something I have experience of as an adult. All that glitters is not gold. It's a very distressing book. Very, very distressing. And the satanic childhood children's abuse ring is just horrific. But I reread it for this Halloween, and I can honestly say it's intensely shocking. It is disturbing, it's very upsetting, not for the faint-hearted. Jim Talbot, the detective, inspector, and Kathy Reed are thrown together, and between them both they must unravel the mystery of what is going on. It's the disturbing origins of the child abuse ring is just the tip of the iceberg, and when they start to realise that people higher up in high office are involved, it becomes even more disturbing, and for Kathy, more than anything, she's seeking answers because it affects her more than anyone else in the novel, because it involves her brother and her niece, and it's just horrific. It really is. And that's why I question her judgment on Phil Cross. And as you read this book, you will see why. Yeah. He just seems to be everywhere where everything is going wrong. How convenient that he is always there at the right time. There's something not right about that. But I won't tell you anymore because I don't want to spoil the plot. It is a very well thought out plot. It's a very well written plot. It's got all the classic Shaun Hutson scenarios and stage settings that he goes by so well, which gives him his classic Godfather of gore. Yeah, you won't be disappointed with the novel. It is that well thought out and that well done. I'll just read you a little snapshot from the front. He heard a rumble, felt a blast of warm air from the tunnel mouth, smelled its familiar odour of dust and metal. The train was coming. About bloody time. The mass of people on the platform prepared itself for the impending squeeze onto the tube, ready to fill every available gap. Hyde saw the lights in the tunnel, heard the rumbling grow louder. Soon be home now. The train burst from the tunnel like some oversized jet-propelled worm, the blast filling the station. Hyde thought about Maggie and smiled. He was still smiling when he threw himself in front of the train. Quote from Oscar Wilde. Children begin by loving their parents. After a time they judge them. Rarely, if ever, do they forgive them. Part 1. Hell is for children, and you shouldn't have to pay for your love with your bones and your flesh. Pat Benatar. Do you hear the children weeping? Oh, my brothers, ere the sorrow comes with years. Elizabeth Barrett Browning. This book is dedicated to Shaun Hutson's daughter. Yes. He does put the acknowledgement at the front, and I should read that for you. What follows is, as usual, a list of people, places, or things which have been used, abused, or welcomed before, during, or after the writing of this novel. People who have helped in some way, places that have been invaluable for various reasons, and things that have smoothed the way and sometimes just a furrowed brow. Yes, I know I'm rambling. Here's the list. Very special thanks to my manager, Gary Farrow, especially for his cheerful messages, gloating over my sleepless nights, and general mickey-taking, what are friends for? By the way, it's your turn for lunch. Many thanks to my publishers and everyone connected with them, especially to Barbara Boot and to my ever-ready, ever-fired-up sales team. If there were 7 of them, I call them the Magnificent. There aren't, so I'll make do with superb. Thank you to Kathy Crimmer, who died so elegantly, even if it wasn't in Harrods. To Joe Balsam, Dee Bundy, Zena, Karen Kane, Malcolm Dome, Jerry Ewing, Phil Alexander, Graham Rogers, James Whale, Gordon Hobbs, Neil Lavender, Maxim Magazine, Merrick Mercurius, Sanctuary Music, and Iron Maiden. Special thanks too to Sarah Kosa, Simon Wadey, John Martin, and Graham Joyce. Thanks as ever to Mr. Wally Grove, a wonderful living embodiment of all that politically incorrect take care mate. Thanks also to Ian Austin, Human Dustbin, and Tucker, to Martin Gooner, Phillips, to Jez, Terry, Rebecca, and Rachel. For those who guarded my money, another special thank you to Jack Taylor and Tom Sharp at the Clydesdale Bank. To Damien and Christine Poole, Amin Saleh, and Louis Block. Thank you to UCI, the Point 10 in Milton Keynes, where I seem to spend most of my time these days. Thanks also to Duncan Strip and Barry Norman of the phone lines, well, my phone lines anyway. Indirect thanks to Metallica, Megadeth, Trent Reznor, Lard, Clannad, Queensrÿche, Sam Peckinpah, and Martin Scorsese. Many thanks too are due in due course to the Adelphi Hotel in Liverpool and the Holiday Inn Mayfair, the Athenaeum in London, the Riga Royal in New York, the Hotel Imperium in Vienna, and the Elbow Beach Hotel in Bermuda. Special thanks to Hayley Owen at Platinum Services, Organizer Suprema, Talker Extraordinaire. Thanks to Yamaha Drums, Zillidan Cymbals, Promark Sticks, and Remo Heads. To Chaz Foots in London and Chapels in Milton Keynes. Thanks also to Fraser in the Strand. Extra special thanks to all the doctors, nurses, midwives, and other staff at Milton Keynes Hospital and Westfield Road Surgery in Bletchley, who helped in any way, shape or form before, during and after the birth of our beautiful daughter. We are indebted to you all. Many thanks to Liverpool Football Club, constant source of pride, pleasure and occasional sore throats, to all in the Bob Paisley suite, especially Sheila, Jenny and Joan. Thanks also to Steve Lucas, another glorious example of how fatherhood does not make a man more mellow, not even 3 o'clock and 4:45 on a Saturday anyway. Thanks to Paul Gardner too, a mine of information, a fading beacon of sportsmanship surrounded by fanaticism, or 3 fanatics at least, while he's having his lunch. Many thanks to my mum and dad, the world's finest parents, now become the world's greatest grandparents. Extra special thanks to my wife Belinda, who continues to love and support me and who presented me with such a precious gift in November 1995. Thank you. As ever, this book is for you, my readers. I thank you for your continued support, those who have been with me from the beginning and those just joining the ride. Let's go, Shaun Hutson, for my daughter. And I should imagine that Shaun found writing this incredibly difficult, now knowing he was a father. Very difficult indeed. I take my hat off to him, I really do, because the subject matter in this book is so disturbing and so brutal. I do not know of another book that's come anywhere close to the soul-destroying descriptions that are within these pages. It handles the subject matter excellently. But if you are severely disturbed by this subject matter, perhaps this one is not for you. Excellent, excellent reading, but only if it's a subject matter that you can handle. Well, my darlings, I'll say what I always do. If you've enjoyed what I've done, my presentation today, please give me a thumbs up. And if you really like what I do, you can always subscribe. I know this is a difficult book. I do genuinely have experience of what's being explained within the pages of this book. It's not easy. And as a parent, coming back to it is even more disturbing. Yes, it is genuinely a very difficult book. Well, on this occasion, I won't be saying happy readings, darlings, because it's not a book that's happy. It's very distressing, actually. But for those that are able to read it, let me know what you thought about it. I'll be keeping my eyes peeled for your comments on this one. Take care, my darlings. Take care. Bye-bye.